Hello, everyone. Hello. So I am coming online today. I wanted to come online today because I was thinking about in times like these, what can I do to help be of assistance or to help people navigate what's going on and some of the pain that they may be feeling right now. And so I was just really wrestling with how I could be a blessing during this time. And so I said, hey, poof, do a live. Do what you do a live. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a live. So for those of you that are watching this live, I am going to ask that you start a watch party because someone that's on your timeline, a family, a friend, may need to may need to hear this or may need to experience this. And so I want you to start a watch party and start sharing so that someone else can be blessed as well. So I'm not going to wait. You know, people say, I'm going to wait for people to get in. I'm not going to wait because I am going to have to move quickly after this. And so I want to try and get through as many of the stages as I can before I move on. So let me introduce myself. I am CC Jackson. You see across the bottom it says Reverend CC Jackson, and I am honored um, to be the assistant pastor of the 7th Street Memorial Baptist Church in Richmond, Virginia, where my pastor is my boo, Reverend Micah Jackson. And so I am honored to be able to serve in that capacity with a group of people that I absolutely adore. And during these difficult times, I absolutely miss them. And so we are using, everything that we can to stay connected. And so I wanted to reach out to them and share with you some of the things that I have shared with them. And hopefully, together we can be a blessing. So that's the first thing. I am Reverend C.C. Jackson, the assistant pastor of 7th Street Memorial Baptist Church. But beyond that, by vocation, I am a recognized therapist with the state of Virginia. So by vocation, what I do every day is I have the honor of meeting amazing people that might be having the worst day of their life. What does that mean? I work with people who may be in or who are in acute mental health crisis. And I am the clinician that they meet with that helps make the determination as to whether or not they can go home and be with their families and receive community based care, or if it's not appropriate that they receive that and that they receive a higher level of care, which may be hospitalization for their good or someone else's. So by vocation, that is what I do. So I wanted to put that out there so people would understand that I'm not just Reverend Jackson, because that is an honor, and I am Reverend Jackson, but by vocation, this is what I do all day. So, with that being said, let me do some other things. Now, many people, many people have inundated my inbox with questions and dealing with grief and dealing with the stress of these very real, challenging, unsure, fluid moments. And so my inbox is on a daily basis inundated with people who may have questions or people who are just struggling with what is happening right now. And I am doing this during the pandemic for posterity purposes, for historical purposes. I want to make sure that we understand that this is being done while the coronavirus is wreaking havoc in our world and in our lives. And so my inbox is inundated with people who are struggling to deal with what's happening. And we are all struggling with it in some way or another. We're all struggling with it. We're all wrestling with this. And so I always say, that I am asking that you stop filling my inbox with these chain emails and these chain letters and please forward and watch this now, because I'm trying to get to those persons that need me, and this stuff is clogging up my box. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to delete you. If you keep sending that foolishness to me, watch now, spread this. I'm going to have to delete you because it's taking time from me getting to people that actually need me, because I have to weed through all of this foolishness. So I'm going to ask you to please, 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 please stop putting that stuff in my, stop it, stop it, stop putting that stuff in my inbox. Okay. All right. So that was some housekeeping things I needed to get out of the way. The second part of that, or of this, is that I am going to do a part 2 to this. So this says Understanding Grief Part 1. So I'm doing part 1 so that I can read some of the questions that you may leave or the comments, and I can address them later in part 2. So if you have any questions, and you don't feel comfortable putting them here on my post, then I want you to go to my inbox, because everyone is going to stop sending me that stuff that's clogging up my inbox so that I can get to your question or your comment or your concern, and I can answer that. Okay. All right. So final thing, housekeeping. No, next to final thing. Final thing is that this pollen is wearing me out. I feel like I have swallowed a canary or something with a bunch of feathers on it, because this pollen is wearing me out. And I had my window open. It wasn't a good idea in retrospect, but that's wearing me out. So if I sound, like the other Reverend Jackson, my voice is a little deep, or, I'm coughing a little bit, please know that I did something that wasn't very wise, and I had my window crack, and now I feel like the pollen is being disrespectful and it's attacking me. All right, last housekeeping thing. I laid out who I was, I laid out my credentials, but I must say this from the onset. As I go through these stages of grief, please know that they are not exhausted. I am getting these, I love these stages of grief. It's actually the 7 stages, and these 7 stages are from social work tech, or social work techie, I think it is. And I love it because it's 7 stages rather than the traditional 6 stages. So with that being said, I want you to understand that this is not exhaustive. This is not the be all end all. And you may find yourself in one phase or slipping back to another. This is all part of the human experience, and I want you to embrace it all. But I also want you, if you are having any type of concerns, if you are having struggles with getting through this, if you are challenged with managing your grief or managing symptoms or managing depression, you do not have to go through this by yourself. I want you to reach out to a professional counselor. There are many, you can look them up. Reach out to a counselor and say, listen, I need some help getting through this. There is a wonderful hotline. It's 1-800-273-TALK, talk, 1-800-273-TALK, which is actually 1-800-273, I think it's 8255. I want you to put that number up, because there's someone on that line available to talk to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they can help to make referrals as well. If you're in the Virginia area, 211 makes the magic happen for you. So you'll see me every now and then look at my phone, because after I do part 1, I need to do an assessment. And if I get an emergency call, I'm going to do like one of my absolute favorite instructors. I promise you, I absolutely adore her. But one of my favorite instructors was Dr. Pat Guchamp. And in the middle of a class, she would get a phone call. And those of you who are STVU graduates that ever took Dr. Pat knows that in the middle of class, she would answer that phone and she would be like, yes, okay. And be just as smooth, and then come back and be like, okay, where did we leave? And not even really say that, but her posture is so she never missed a beat. So you'll see me looking at my phone every now and then. And please know that I am what I like to say on call, on duty, because I don't know when crises will arise. And so every now and then you're going to see me peek over at my phone. Okay. All right. So that's being said, let's get started. Let's go. Let's do this. Let's roll. All right. So during the title, you see Understanding Grief Part 1, I said it's okay to not be okay. I just want to stay right there for about 30 seconds. It's okay for you to embrace where you are and what it is that you're going through. And it's okay for you not to be what some would consider your normal self. It's okay not to be the one that's always smiling. It's okay not to be the one that's the life of the party. It's okay to not be the one that's trying to keep everything and everyone together. It's okay for you to not be okay with what it is that you're dealing with. And I tell people all the time, if I'm not okay, it has nothing to do with my faith. It has nothing to do with how much I love my God. It's just the reality that I have embraced my humanity. And when I embrace my humanity, I embrace everything that comes with it. And so when I embrace my humanity, there are times I'm going to be happy. There are times I'm going to be sad. There are times I'm going to be confused. There are times where I'm just going to be challenged and really be struggling as to how I'm going to deal with the next phase of my life. That does not mean that I do not know who God is. That does not mean that I don't know what God is capable of doing. That just means that the very real feelings and emotions that He has given me is something that I am struggling with, or I am wrestling with, or I'm trying to make sense of, so that I can put some type of normalcy back into my life. And normally that happens after a trauma, after something happens. Now, just sidebar. When someone is going through something, we have a proclivity, we have an impulse, especially in the church, to automatically want to throw scriptures at them. You know, God will do it, and you know, you're more than a conqueror, and blah 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 blah. Listen. I cannot speak for everyone, but I can speak firmly for me. If we are ever in a position and I'm not okay, and the first thing that you do is start throwing scriptures at me, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably going to cuss you out. Yeah, I probably am. I'm probably going to say something to hurt your feelings. I'm probably going to put you in a very bad space for a very few moments. And that is because when someone is hurting and someone is going through, they do not need you to quote scriptures. They don't need you to remind them of who God is. What they may need is just your presence. What they may need is just your silence. What they may need is for someone to just hand them a tissue. I say all the time, and this is one of the things that we teach our ministers, and that is that the ministry of presence and the ministry of silence is part of, or some of the most powerful ministry tools that you can give to someone. When someone is talking about their trauma or how they've lost something or someone, just be there to listen. Be there to hold them. Be there to pass a tissue. Be there to just make sure that they're eating or drinking. which is very important. Just be there, be present in that moment with them, help them to manage that time that they are in. Those are the things that people need, not throwing scriptures at them. Give them a moment to work through that. So I just wanted to put that out there from the onset, because and it's human nature, and sometimes it's not intentional, and it's not meant to hurt or degrade. It's just our impulse. Sometimes it is an impulse for someone to begin quoting scriptures or doing something like that. And I want to encourage you to not to not to not just don't just be there with that person. Allow them to not be okay. Allow them to be where they are in that moment. Allow them to just be, because it's okay to not be okay. Okay. All right, so with that being said, again, I'm going through the 7 stages of grief because I like 7, and because Social Work Techie gave us 7 stages rather than the traditional 6. Okay, so the first stage of grief is shock and denial. First stage. Now, understanding that grief is a byproduct or is the result of something that we've lost. It is not necessarily the death of something, but it is acknowledging that something that now was will never be again, and things have legitimately changed. They've realistically changed. So when we talk about stages of grief, we normally attribute it to a death, but we can go through grief over things. For example, someone who has worked at a job for 25 years of their life, and then all of a sudden they're laid off, they grieve not being at the same place. Those of us who are used to being out and about and shopping and doing things that they would normally do in everyday life during this pandemic, we can't do that. So we legitimately grieve not being able to have the mobility that we would normally have. And then, of course, on the other end of that spectrum, there are those of us who are dealing with grief as it relates to the loss of someone. And to lose someone or to lose something is individualized. And so the way I grieve or the way I respond to loss may be different from the way someone else responds to loss. And so with that being said, we don't have to match in how we grieve something. It depends on where we are. It depends on what's happening. So understand that grief begins not just with the loss of someone, but also with the loss of something. And so understanding that helps us to appreciate that someone may not be dealing with it or wrestling with it the same way that we are. And they can be grieving something and not necessarily someone. That makes sense. I hope that makes sense. That we're grieving. Yeah. So, okay. That makes sense. Okay. All right. So, all right. So let's go from here. So the first stage of grief is shock and denial. That is the phase where it just feels like the wind has been taken from us, where we just, it's one of those things. And even as I'm sharing this and I'm teaching this, it's one of those things where you just can't believe that this is happening. And it's one of those things where you're just saying to yourself, I know, and y'all know I have a little silliness to me as well. Humor is the way I deal with a lot of things. And, you say to yourself, I know this, this can't be real. This can't be happening. This cannot be happening right now. I know that this is not real. And that is the first phase. It is the shock and the denial, because losing something or someone can be so overwhelmingly painful that it is hard for your brain to process that this is a new reality. So you're stuck somewhere between this is unbelievable and I can't believe that this is happening. So phase one is the shock and denial over what's happening and what it is that you are experiencing. And it's very normal. It's very normal. So you'll see people, I have been with persons that have lost, let's say, for example, their job. And they walk out of the building and they're like, I can't believe this. What am I going to do? I have spent so much time here. What do I do next? And then I've been with folks who've lost someone and we've had to walk away from a hospital room or and they're just like, I don't know what I do next. I have no clue. I cannot believe that this person is gone. I cannot believe that this is happening. Those are very real words and sayings that are said. So the first phase is shock and denial. And so when we see someone that is experiencing that, that is a very, very normal phase. Shock, denial, unbelief. I can't believe this is happening. Now, after we get through the shock and denial, we normally start dealing with pain and guilt. Now, this is so important. Two things. One, I want you to embrace your pain. Excuse me, that went down wrong. I want you to embrace your pain. I want you to be able to acknowledge where you are in that pain and dealing with that experience. So I want you to be able to say and use in the therapeutic context what we call I statements and say, I am hurting. I am in pain. I don't know how to manage this because pain has a way of affecting us, not only psychologically, but we can begin to see it somatically or in our body. We'll start seeing it manifest itself. And so I want you to be able to embrace where you are. I want you to pay attention to your pain. I want you to pay attention to headaches. I want you to pay attention to how you're feeling because this can be your body saying that the stress that you're dealing with right now is starting to have a somatic effect. And so I want you to be able to say, I feel my heart racing. This is so painful for me right now. I feel these things happening and embrace them in your body so that you or someone near you can monitor it. So that's important. Embrace your pain. Embrace it. And if you need help navigating that, then, I pray that you have someone with you that can help you navigate that. But I want you to start saying, I feel this is how I'm doing. This pain is hurting me. I am in unbelievable pain. And there have been times that I have been in so much pain that it was hard to even articulate the pain that I was in. So another therapeutic thing that I want you to do, and a lot of times we don't think about this, but just pick up a piece of paper and just start writing about where you are or what you're feeling at that moment, because I want you to fully embrace that pain. Because a lot of times what happens is that people do not embrace that pain. They carry that pain. They suppress that pain, and then it manifests later. And what we have found and what studies have found is that a failure to acknowledge some things that may be going on psychologically actually do have a somatic effect. And so you find stress manifesting itself in different areas of your body or manifesting in illnesses. Now, let me just give you a very surface, very simple example of this. When we are in pain, sometimes we don't like to eat or drink. And so if we don't eat, if we don't drink, if we don't attend to our body, we'll dehydrate, we'll become sicker. And so embracing pain in times of shock and grief, embracing that pain can help you to stay physically ready to deal with whatever you need to deal with. So embrace it. Embrace it. I know it hurts. I know you're going to cry. Embrace it. Now, here's something that people says that sends me through a roof. And when people say this, I have to use all of my calming techniques. I will physically woosah in front of them. Most of you who know me well know that there are certain things when it's said, my finger will go up. So, oh, wait a minute. When you are in pain, if you begin to emote or if you begin to cry, please cry all you want to. Cry, scream, fall out on the floor, yell, do whatever you have to do to get through the pain of that moment that you're in. And don't allow anyone to rob you of that. One of the things that I hate is for someone to be crying. Pet peeve. Finger. See, finger automatically went up. Pet peeve. I hate to see someone who is grieving or in pain, and someone says, "Oh, don't cry, don't cry. Be strong, be strong. You gotta be strong. You gotta be strong." No, there's no award for being strong. Trust me, you will not get a plaque for being strong. If you are hurting, if something is going on with you, you don't have to be strong. You don't have to put on a face for anyone. Cry and deal with it, because it's really about you learning to get through that moment. So I want you to remember that. All right, the second part of phase two, and I said the first part of, so like the A or the B clause. The first part was pain. The second is guilt. Please do not go through the rabbit hole of guilt. Don't do it. Don't do it. If I had been there, if I had done this, if I had done that, death is something, or loss is something that we are all going to experience at one time or another in our life. And unfortunately, we cannot go back and change things that have already happened. We can't. I tried to build a time capsule. It didn't work. We can't. We cannot go back and change what was. So the more time we spend in guilt about what we could have done or what we should have done, it impedes our ability. It challenges our ability to move forward. We're always going to have in the back of our mind, I wish I had said this, or I wish I had done this, or I wish I had more time. Um, because if we're losing a thing or we're losing someone, then that's always going to be, that's very normal. That's very real. That's a very part of the experience. We're always going to say, I wish that I had that. But when we start allowing that emotion to sit on us, um, I shouldn't have said this, or I shouldn't have done this, or blah, 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 blah. What ends up happening is that it will pull us into a very dark place, in a dark space, over something that we cannot change. One of the therapeutic processes that I use is I will tell someone to write a letter to that loved one and pour out something that you wish you may have said. If it's a job or a thing, write it out. Pour it out. Find ways to verbalize or memorialize the moment in a positive way, and not feel guilt about something you cannot change. Again, I tried the whole time capsule thing. It may not have worked because it wasn't my gift. Maybe it's yours, and if it's yours, hook me up. But we can't go back and change something that's already happened. We can only move forward from there and commit to doing more things that will lessen the regrets or the guilt that we may have. So that's a teachable moment. But don't stay in the moment of feeling guilty about something that you cannot change. Or I wish I had told them not to do this, or I wish I had done this differently or done that. Please don't stay in that emotion. Now, anger and bargaining is stage 3 of the 7. Anger and bargaining. This is when we're angry. we're just angry. We're angry with this new existence that we have. And this can be painful for us. Um, but again, I want you to appropriate your anger. When you get angry, because you will, how dare, like, let's, the example that I used of losing a job, how dare they let me go? Or how dare this person leave me? That's very natural because we're struggling to deal with the reality that now a burden that may have been shared by many is now feeling as if it's all on you. So anger is very real. It's very real. And I encourage you to embrace that emotion as well. And say and learn to verbalize, use these wonderful I statements. I am angry. Um, I feel angry because. And one of the things that I like to say to people, especially as Reverend Jackson, is God can handle your anger. He really can. He can handle you being angry about something that he has done. I say all the time, I have learned to accept what God has allowed, but I don't always like it. Everything that's going on, even right now, my reality is that I don't like it. I don't like being able to communicate with my church family. I don't like not being able to hug and to touch. I don't like it. I don't like it. And for a while, I was angry about it because I did not. I don't have to fully understand what is happening. I can just understand that I don't like where I am right now. And so that's part of it, being angry. That's a very real emotion. Embrace it, deal with it, acknowledge it, move on from it. And you can get help to move on from your anger because anger hurts you. Anger can make you miserable. Anger can keep you up at night. Anger can, anger can drive you to do some things that you will regret. And during this time of grief and loss, when you're dealing with something, you it's a very real emotion. And it's what we call a secondary emotion because the first emotion is hurt. So we only get angry over something that hurt us. So when we're dealing with the hurt and the anger manifests, we can be very dangerous at that point with stuff that we say or we do. So I always encourage people contextualize that because anger will have you lashing out at people that don't deserve it, hurting yourself or doing things to injure yourself that it's not a necessity. So I do want you to be able to acknowledge that. And then we all go through that bargaining phase where if I can just have one more moment, this is what I'll do with it. Can we just do one more thing? This sounds very cold. And I know that at the onset, so I just want to share this, that this is going to sound kind of cold and distant. Um, it is what it is. It is what it is. And because it is what it is, we cannot change it. We can just manage the effects of it. So bargaining and dealing with the anger, this is dealing with the effects of what has happened to you. So anger and bargaining, be mindful of that because we don't want you lashing out. And then I'm going to do the fourth one, and then I'm gonna hop off because I want us to digest this and be able to talk about it a little bit more. The fourth one is the depression, the reflection, and the loneliness. This is very real. This is very, very real. Because now you have to find ways to adjust to a new and uncomfortable normal. So for some of us, not during this time of pandemic, it is depressing not to see the people that we would normally see. It is difficult for a lot of my, and this has been in my inbox, a lot of teachers are missing their babies and worried about their kids. A lot of clergy are missing the people that they would normally see every Sunday and every Tuesday or Wednesday when they had Bible study. So you find yourself going through depression. And let's call it what it is, just depression. We become depressed. Now, I want you to monitor these depressive symptoms. Now, this is not all of them, but this is some of them, some of the most common ones. Some of the most common ones we have is we start isolating from others. We don't want to be bothered. We don't want to eat. Um, we have trouble sleeping. We don't feel like getting up and doing our hair. We don't feel like taking care of ourselves. We just over it, just over it. Those are some signs of depression. Now, some of it is normal because it is now adjusting to new reality. So some of this is normal. But if you find that this is continuous and you just cannot shake yourself out of it, I want you to give yourself a break. Understand that you are dealing with some very natural emotions and get help. Find a therapist, talk to your PCP, talk to someone and let them know I can't shake this. I have no strength to do this. I can't get up. It's hard. These are depressive symptoms that come along with the stages of grief. But if they linger for an extended period of time, they can be harmful. And so you want to make sure that if you're consistently doing this for weeks at a time and you just feel like you're not you, and you can't shake these symptoms, reach out to help. Get someone to help you because it's a very real phase. It's a very real emotion or emotional place. It's very real, and you can get help. You can get support to get you through that, because along with that depression becomes loneliness and reflection, and you begin to think about what it is that you've lost. You think about um, uh, the space between you and that thing or that person, and you begin to recognize that the reality has changed. So if it's a thing, I can't go there anymore. I can't do that. It may be something that you lost that was special to you. I can't touch it anymore. And especially if it's a person, um, you begin to reflect on, I can't hear that voice anymore. I can't just go hug their neck. I can't really be with them. And all of those emotions are very real. Um, I'm lonely without them. I miss them. From a very real and raw place, I will share with you that um, it takes time to be able um, to contextualize loss. So don't rush through that. For the first time in years, I myself was able to look at some pictures that I had taken with my mom prior to her death 2 days ago. And my mom has been gone for many years now, and I was just able to look at some pictures of a time that her and I and Pastor Jackson had spent together doing some special things, and the smile and the laughter that we shared during that time. Um, so don't rush yourself through that, but be mindful of it, because what happens is you're dealing with a reality I can't see, I can't touch, I can't call, I can't connect like I would normally connect with that person or thing. Now, it's during these times, and this is the good part I want to leave us on. It's during these times, a good thing to do is that as I was reflecting and dealing with the loneliness and dealing with the depression and reflecting on time that we had shared and stuff, in the middle of that I thought about something silly that her and I would say to each other, or something that we do, and immediately I had this like little smirk that came across my face, and I was like, yeah, I remember that, and I started laughing. And so I say that to say that during these moments, uh, be where you are, deal with it in a very real way, but to bring yourself out of that moment, do a check or reminder of a time in which you shared with that thing or that person that made you smile. Because that is what helps, and that's what helps to get you out of phase four. Is remembering good times, remembering laughter, remembering smiles, remembering remembering the silly things that you've done together. Because eventually, and I shared this with someone that said, I just can't stop crying. I said, well, cry all you want. But when you feel as if that cry is coming to an end, I want you to think about something that person, because they were dealing with a death, something that person would have said that would have made you smile, something that person would have done that would have just lit up your life, and focus on that, because eventually the smiles will outweigh the tears, and you'll find yourself smiling more than crying more. And it's not that you are not acknowledging the loss, it's that you have learned to manage and contextualize your pain and move from your point of pain into a new place of normalcy where you acknowledge the loss, but the pain is not as prevalent. And let me say this about pain, and then I'm gonna end us for today. The pain of losing something or someone never goes away. Um, People say, the with time, pain will pass. I don't agree with that. I'm sorry, I don't subscribe to that. I believe that time teaches us how to manage pain, but it never goes away. We learn how to manage it and to deal with it and it not become debilitating to us. But that doesn't mean it's not there. It means that I've learned how to manage the pain. And so I want us to kind of end on that, that we can manage the pain, or we can manage where we are. We can manage what it is that we're dealing with. We can manage this. And so I'm hoping that stages 1 through 4, understanding 1 through 4, is helping someone to know that it's okay not to be okay. So I'm hoping that has been helpful. So what I want you to do is I am going to be looking at I am going to be looking at my messages at some point today, and I'm going to probably do the second part of this maybe this evening or tomorrow, and go through the final phases. But I do want to get some feedback, if it's helping, if you want me to give you clarity on something that I said. If you want me to give you a tip on something, I want to be able to do that. So I'm going to take my time and read through the messages and then get back. Okay. All right. So thank you all for spending 43 minutes and 28 seconds with me, because that's my time. I wanted to end at 45. So I am going to say that you can make it through this. I wish you could see my t-shirt. My t-shirt has a cross on it and it says, "And I survived." It was from a conference that I did a couple of years ago. And so my t-shirt says what I believe: no matter what it is that you're going through, you can survive this. It's going to be hard. It's going to be tough. There's going to be many tears that you cry. There are going to be many times that you want to throw in the towel, but someone will be there to throw it back and let you know that you can make it through this. So I hope this helps. Share it. And I will be checking my inbox. Don't send me no more of this spam stuff, because I'm gonna block you and you're not gonna be able to see it. But if you have a legit question, go ahead and send it to me, and I'll try to answer it. Okay. All right, guys. Have an absolutely amazing day. I hope that I help you. May God bless you real good. And have an amazing day. All right. I'll talk with you later. Oh, yes. That's SpongeBob in the back. Can y'all see SpongeBob? SpongeBob. SpongeBob makes me happy. So on behalf of SpongeBob and myself, Have a great day. All right. Love you guys. Bye.